when you put it all together with the date against Illinois coming up, that's going to be crucial, depending on whether they can win this game. What's your read on Purdue's level of play within this division?
Well, it's kind of weird. You asked me that before the Wisconsin game, I probably would have given you a different answer. But this is kind of every game Purdue's played this year has kind of been pretty close, which is I think Jeff Brom said it best. If you want to see a 4-quarter game, come to the Purdue game, because this team doesn't have the ability apparently to blow anybody out. And which, at least for winning the games, 5-3, we're actually exactly where I thought we'd be. Actually better, because I thought we would have 3 Big Ten losses by now, which we only have 2. But I mean, there's definitely some deficiencies on this team. There's some problems. Secondary is a big time concern, but so it's just kind of weird. It's kind of up and down. You think we'd be feeling pretty good about ourselves, but man, it's just been a weird year. Definitely a weird year.
And they're dealing with injuries in the back end, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, we had Chris Jefferson apparently quit due to mental health. He's not coming back. They're beat up back there, and I think part of that Wisconsin game. The bye week did come at an absolutely perfect time. His team was beat up. They had quite a few games on the road at Maryland, at Wisconsin, at Minnesota, which they won. 2 games I thought they would actually lose. They won against Minnesota and Maryland, and they were pretty beat up, I think, limping into that Wisconsin game. So, if it wasn't for those interceptions, I think it would have been a little bit better of a game. But Aiden O'Connell, unfortunately, has not ever played Wisconsin well, and it showed up again last 2 Saturdays ago.
And people need to realize Purdue is coming off a bye week. So whatever that means. I mean, I know obviously Iowa hasn't utilized its bye weeks very well these last 2 years, getting blown out to Wisconsin last year off a bye and getting blown out to Ohio State this year. This is obviously a game, Grant. No Iowa fan can escape this fact. Purdue has owned this rivalry. And for the record, I brought up Anthony Mahungu in 2017. Mark, this is a number I'm going to be releasing a preview for this game here tomorrow. I'm going to be researching this number again because I've done it in the past. But I can just recite off the top of my head the last 5 matchups. Okay. So 2017, they got burned by Mahungu for 100-plus yards. 2018, they got burned by Terry Wright, not Milton, right? Terry Wright for 100-plus yards. Am I right, Grant?
Yes.
Would have been a Terry Wright year. 2019, they got burned at home to David Bell. Won that game. Brandon Smith had a big game for Iowa. Won that game narrowly, but they gave up over 100 yards to Bell. Then gave up, 200 yards or something to Bell in 2020, and then gave up a ton of yards, like 180 yards last year to Bell. So, I mean, I don't think there's no question. I can tell you with 1,000% confidence, there is not another team in the Big Ten, Mark, that Phil Parker's defense has allowed 100-plus yards to a single receiver for 5 straight seasons. That's an incredible statistic. And so, obviously, the candidate for that this year would clearly be Charlie Jones, who's doing it just about against every opponent. Iowa players today in their interviews sounded motivated. I have no question that they're motivated. I don't think, at least according to what guys like Nico Reganey and Kayvon Merriweather and those guys, Riley Moss, were talking about, I don't think those guys are looking for blood. I think a lot of those guys are still friends with Charlie. There's this narrative with some Iowa fans that Charlie did Iowa dirty. Give me a break. I hate hearing that. Look, he left after spring ball. He got to look at what was going to be the product and didn't like it and has every right to leave. Made a good decision for himself. So my point is that's going to be the matchup to follow, not just because of the fact that he's an Iowa transfer, but because Purdue seems to always get a receiver over 100 yards against Iowa. Ironically enough, none of those receivers I just mentioned were Rondale Moore, who might be the best of all of them. I just think that's hilarious. But, fascinated by the matchup. And you brought up the secondary, Grant. I think one thing to look for, last year they haunted Spencer Petras in that pocket, and specifically George Karlaftis. I mean, just that Iowa offensive line looked absolutely helpless, very reminiscent of the Big Ten championship game last year against the likes of Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo. So my question is, can Purdue put that type of pressure on Petras? Because I'm going to tell you something right now. You've watched enough Iowa football this year, Grant. If they get in the pocket early and often, Iowa's not winning this football game. There is no way Iowa wins this football game if they can consistently get pressure on Spencer Petras, because we understand that Iowa typically can't run the football well. I know Northwestern they were big holes on that offensive line. Iowa was pushing the Wildcats around. That's not going to happen against Purdue. So I really do believe it will come down to, can Petrus, will he have time to make throws? Because if he doesn't, he is not proven to be able to make accurate, calm plays under pressure. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This Purdue team, for the most part, has been very solid against the run. I think they're even like a top 30 rush defense. And 2 weeks ago, I keep saying last week, because Wisconsin, that was the first time they had let somebody go for 100 yards on them all year individually. So Iowa, obviously, Petrus. Yeah, you mentioned watch a lot of Iowa football. Kind of like a train wreck or a car wreck that you pass on the side of the road. That offense anyway. That you can't help but look at. So tune in every once in a while. But yeah, I think Petrus, especially last week too. I didn't watch a whole lot of the game, but when he's comfortable, he can do enough to be dangerous at times. And so that's kind of always been the key for Purdue is defensive pressure and getting to the quarterback. And this year they've been okay. But what scares me the most is, and I know you guys have talked about Iowa's offensive line being a problem, but we at Purdue have the ability to make an offensive line that struggled all year look like all Big Ten certain weeks. So I wouldn't be shocked if Iowa, and also Kaiser Jenkins, our best defensive lineman, has been hurt. Got hurt against Wisconsin, may not play Saturday. That would be a big loss. So for this game as a Purdue fan, I'm usually pretty optimistic. I'm a little nervous about this game, to be honest with you. I just think with our secondary issues, Petrus got some confidence last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a semi-competent game and we can't get to him and your defense does its thing. We could have a dogfight on our hands and could very well lose this game.
Well, just remember real quick, I know you got to get going. Spencer's only played one semi-competent game this year.
Oh, I know.
So, and it was against Northwestern, who's 1-7. The numbers say Purdue better than I do. The numbers say Purdue has a top 50 defense. So you're just talking about their struggles in the secondary, and you're saying that the defensive line can make Iowa's offensive line look good. I think again, did Iowa's offensive line just click all of a sudden? We'll find out. But I think you and I are kind of in different places because I have a lot of confidence in Purdue winning this football game right now. I'm not going to give a score prediction, but I just think the matchup, just like in past years, I'm not saying that they're going to score a ton of points. I think I would give Phil Parker the benefit of the doubt that finally he's going to learn to make some adjustments in this game, but I just don't know how Iowa runs the football.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that Phil, takes it personally. He gets it figured out, and I don't know if this is going to happen. I think Purdue's going to win, but that just if Petrus can play a semi-competent game, which I don't know if he can, that he's going to have to throw the ball because I think Purdue's able to stop the run. But
exactly.